Greetings, brave souls. Dare to discover the dark unknown. I am your haunted host, and you've stumbled upon the Phantom Files, where shadows speak and legends awaken. Here, I unravel the darkest secrets and mysteries of the macabre, taking a page from my ancient library, covering topics that will haunt your dreams and mysteries that will keep you up at night. Dare to join me in the shadows. Subscribe now, and let's embrace and dive into the darkness together with The Phantom Files. Welcome, brave souls, to The Phantom Files. Tonight we embark on a chilling voyage into the heart of darkness itself, the unfathomable depths of the world's oceans. Imagine, if you will, the vastness of the sea. Miles upon miles of inky blackness stretching far beyond the reach of sunlight. A realm where pressure could crush you in an instant, where strange luminous creatures drift like living stars in an endless void. But tonight, dear listeners, we delve even deeper. We plunge into the abyss where nightmares are born, where colossal beings of unimaginable power have slumbered since time immemorial. These are the titans of the deep, the leviathans that haunt the dreams of sailors and the nightmares of landlubbers alike. Some say these beasts are mere myth, fabrications of mind saddled by sea madness and superstition. But I ask you this, in a world where we've barely scratched the surface of our ocean's secrets, can we truly dismiss the legends that have persisted for millennia? So steel your nerves and quiet your racing hearts, for we're about to set sail on a journey into the unknown. Keep your wits about you, for in these waters, one never knows when an ancient horror might rise from the depths, ready to drag us all into the cold, dark embrace of the sea. Let us begin our descent into maritime terror. Our first tale takes us to the frigid waters of the North Atlantic, where icy winds howl across treacherous seas. Here, in the mist-shrouded fjords of Scandinavia, lurks a beast so monstrous, so utterly terrifying, that the mere whisper of its name sends shivers down the spines of even the hardiest sea dogs. The Kraken. Picture, if you dare, a creature of such immense size that it dwarfs the mightiest vessels ever built by human hands. Its body is a writhing mass of sinewy flesh, larger than a dozen whales combined. But it's not the beast's bulk that strikes terror into the hearts of sailors. No, it's the arms. Enormous tentacles, thick as the trunks of ancient oaks, lined with suckers the size of dinner plates, each one ringed with razor-sharp hooks. Legend has it that the Kraken lies in wait, perfectly still in the inky depths. Patient. Watching. Then, when an unsuspecting ship sails overhead, it strikes. Those mammoth tentacles shoot upward with frightening speed, latching onto the hull with unbreakable grip. Wood splinters, masts snap like twigs, and the screams of doomed sailors fill the air as their ship is inexorably pulled beneath the waves. But here's a chilling thought to keep you up at night. What if the Kraken we know from myth is merely a juvenile of its species? What if, in the lightless trenches of the deep ocean, there swims a Kraken so old, so unimaginably vast, that it could encircle entire islands in its grasp? Dear listeners, when we feel the earth shake and the seas churn during great storms, it's not the wrath of nature we're experiencing, but the stirring of an ancient tentacled god, hungry for the taste of human fear. From the icy north, we now turn our gaze to the sun-baked shores of the ancient Near East. Here, in scrolls yellowed with age and in tales passed down through generations, we find mention of a creature so terrifying that it was said to be the physical manifestation of chaos itself. The Leviathan. Imagine, if you can, a serpent of cosmic proportions. Its coils could encircle entire kingdoms, its scales gleaming like polished shields, impervious to any earthly weapon. When it moves, the seas themselves part. When it breaches the surface, mountains tremble and the skies darken. But the true horror of the Leviathan lies not in its size, but in its purpose. For this was no mere animal, no simple predator of the deep. No, the Leviathan was said to be an instrument of divine judgment, a force of destruction so absolute that its very existence challenged the natural order. It's said that in the earliest days of creation, there were two Leviathans. The Creator, fearing the devastation they could wreak together, slew the female and preserved her flesh to be feasted upon by the righteous at the end of days. The male was left to roam the seas alone, a singular embodiment of nature's fury and God's might. But here's a thought to chill your blood. What if the tale of the Leviathan's mate being slain was just that, a tale? What if, somewhere in the vast unexplored reaches of our oceans, not one but two Leviathans still swim? And what if, after eons of separation, they were to find each other once more? The end times, spoke of in ancient prophecies, might not come from above, dear listeners, but from the depths below. We've spoken of beasts from folklore and religious texts, creatures that, terrifying as they may be, still fit within the realm of our understanding. But now, dear listeners, we dive into darker waters still. For our next tale comes not from ancient myth, but from the feverish imagination of a man who peered into the abyss and saw something peering back. I speak, of course, of Cthulhu. Born in the twisted mind of H.P. Lovecraft, Cthulhu represents something far more terrifying than a mere physical threat. Imagine, if your sanity can bear it, a being so utterly alien, so incomprehensibly vast and powerful, that the mere sight of it could shatter your mind like fragile glass. Part octopus, part dragon, part human, yet wholly other. Cthulhu sleeps in the sunken city of R'lyeh, a place where the very laws of physics break down. Its massive cephalopod head sits atop a grotesque, scaly body with rudimentary wings, a mockery of earthly life forms. But Cthulhu is more than a monster. It is a great old one, a cosmic entity that defies categorization. Neither alive nor dead, it waits, dreaming in its watery tomb. And as it dreams, its thoughts seep into the minds of humans, driving them to the brink of madness with visions of cosmic horror. Cultists whisper of the day when the stars are right, and mighty Cthulhu will rise from the depths to reclaim dominion over the earth. On that day, they say, the world as we know it will end, replaced by a nightmarish realm of chaos and terror. But here's a disturbing notion to contemplate in the dark of night. What if Cthulhu is already stirring? What if the inexplicable sense of dread that sometimes washes over us is actually the psychic echo of this cosmic horror beginning to awaken? Perhaps, dear listeners, our own nightmares are but pale reflections of Cthulhu's dreams, seeping into our subconscious minds from its watery prison. And with each passing day, as our world grows stranger and more chaotic, we draw ever closer to the moment of its awakening. From cosmic horrors, we now sail into the treacherous waters of Greek mythology, where a monster so terrifying lurks that it has become synonymous with inescapable danger. Behold CHARYBDIS, the living whirlpool. Picture, if you will, a moor in the sea itself, a monstrous gullet large enough to swallow entire fleets. CHARYBDIS was no mere quirk of ocean currents, but a sentient, ever-hungry entity. 3 times a day, it would inhale, creating a vortex so powerful it could pull ships from miles away. And 3 times a day, it would exhale, spewing forth broken timbers and the bones of unfortunate sailors. Some say CHARYBDIS was once a Naiad, a water nymph transformed into this insatiable moor as punishment for her greed. Others claim it to be the twisted offspring of Poseidon and Gaia. Whatever its origin, CHARYBDIS represented the sea at its most treacherous, unpredictable, all-consuming, and utterly merciless. The real horror of CHARYBDIS lay not just in its destructive power, but in the inevitability of its hunger. No ship was fast enough to outrun it, no vessel strong enough to resist its pull. Once caught in CHARYBDIS' influence, there was no escape, only the terrifying certainty of being dragged down into the darkest depths of the sea. But here's a chilling thought to ponder. What if CHARYBDIS was not fixed in place as the myths suggest? What if it could roam the seas at will, appearing without warning to drag unsuspecting ships to their doom? From one Greek terror to another, we now turn our attention to the creature that made passing through the Strait of Messina a nightmare for ancient sailors. Feast your eyes if you dare upon Scylla. Once a beautiful nymph, Scylla was transformed by jealous magic into a hideous monstrosity. Imagine a creature with 6 long serpentine necks, each ending in a head bristling with 3 rows of razor-sharp teeth. Her lower body consisted of 12 tentacle-like legs and a fin-like tail firmly anchored to the rocky cliffs. Scylla's howls could be heard for miles, a cacophony of bestial roars that struck terror into the hearts of approaching sailors. And when a ship passed within reach, those 6 heads would shoot out with lightning speed, each one plucking a screaming victim from the deck. The horror of Scylla lay not just in her monstrous appearance but in the cruel intelligence behind those 12 glaring eyes. She was no mindless beast, but a cunning predator that delighted in the fear she inspired. Sailors spoke in hushed whispers of her preferred method of hunting, snatching a single sailor from a passing ship, then waiting for the inevitable rescue attempt, only to strike again when the remaining crew was at their most vulnerable. But here's a terrifying thought to contemplate. What if Scylla's transformation was not unique? What if there are other beautiful nymphs out there, cursed and twisted into similar monstrosities? Even now, they cling to hidden cliffs and submerged mountains, waiting for unwary ships to pass too close. From the sun-drenched waters of the Mediterranean, we now journey north once more to the mist-shrouded realm of Norse mythology. Here, in the cold grey waters of the North Sea, we encounter a serpent so vast, so mind-bogglingly enormous that it encircles the entire world. This is Jörmungandr, the Midgard serpent. Offspring of the trickster god Loki and the giantess Angerboda, Jörmungandr was cast into the ocean by Odin himself, who feared the creature's power. But rather than perish, the serpent grew, and grew, and grew, until its colossal body spanned the globe, its tail clutched firmly in its own jaws. Imagine, dear listeners, a snake large enough to wrap around the entire earth. Its scales, each one the size of a ship's sail, glittering in the depths like sunken treasure. Its eyes, vast and ancient, filled with a primordial hunger that can never be sated. When Jörmungandr moves, tsunamis ravage coastlines. When it exhales, hurricanes form in its breath. But the true terror of Jörmungandr lies not just in its size but in its destiny. For the Norse spoke of Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, when this mighty serpent would finally release its tail and rise from the depths to do battle with Thor, the god of thunder. Their clash would be so cataclysmic that the world itself would be unmade. Now consider this, dear listeners, every unexplained tremor in the earth, every monstrous wave that seems to come from nowhere. Could these be the stirrings of Jörmungandr, the final moments before the world serpent rises to herald the end of days? From the icy waters of the north, we now sail south across the vast expanse of the Pacific to the sun-drenched islands of Polynesia. Here, amid turquoise lagoons and swaying palms, we find spirits of the sea that command not flesh and fang, but the very forces of nature itself. These are the Amoi Koi, the Tempest Weavers. Unlike the physical monsters we've encountered so far, the Amoi Koi are spirits, invisible, intangible, yet no less terrifying for their lack of corporeal form. They are the embodiment of the sea's capricious nature, capable of turning a calm ocean into destruction in the blink of an eye. Picture, if you will, beings of pure energy, their forms constantly shifting like the currents they command. One moment, they might appear as a gentle breeze rippling across the water. The next, they could manifest as a towering waterspout, ready to snatch unwary sailors from the decks of their ships. The Amoi Koi were said to be the cause of sudden, inexplicable storms that would arise without warning. A ship could be sailing under clear skies one moment, only to find itself battered by gale-force winds and mountainous waves the next. These spirits took particular delight in tormenting fishermen, create whirlpools that could drag entire boats into the depths. But what makes the Amoi Koi truly terrifying is their inscrutability. Unlike other sea monsters that might be avoided or even fought, these spirits strike without warning and without apparent motive. They are as unpredictable as the sea itself, their actions guided by alien thoughts that no human mind can fathom. And here's a disconcerting thought to keep you awake at night. What if the Amoi Koi are not confined to the South Pacific? What if these capricious spirits have spread to every ocean, every sea? Perhaps that freak storm that nearly capsized your last boating trip wasn't just bad luck. Perhaps it was the work of an Amoi Koi testing its powers. Or simply amusing itself at your expense. Our journey now takes us to the very ends of the earth, to the frigid, ice-choked waters that surround the Antarctic continent. Here, in a realm where icebergs loom like frozen cathedrals and the polar night can last for months, we encounter a creature that blurs the line between myth and modernity. Meet the Ningen. Unlike the ancient beasts we've discussed so far, the Ningen is a relatively new addition to the pantheon of sea monsters. First reported by Japanese whale hunters in the 1960s, these beings are described as massive, pale white creatures with humanoid characteristics. Imagine, if you will, a being as large as a whale, with smooth alabaster skin that seems to glow faintly in the murky depths. Its body is vaguely human in shape, with discernible arms, legs, and even 5-fingered hands. But it's the face that truly chills the blood, a featureless visage, save for 2 enormous black eyes that seem to stare into your very soul. Witnesses describe the Ningen as graceful swimmers, capable of keeping pace with ships despite their enormous size. They're said to be curious, often surfacing near vessels to observe the humans on board. But are they merely inquisitive, or is there a more sinister purpose to their scrutiny? Some theorize that the Ningen are not creatures at all, but highly advanced submersibles piloted by an unknown intelligence. Others whisper that they might be the result of secret genetic experiments, aquatic superhumans created to survive in the harshest environment on Earth. But here's a thought that might send a shiver down your spine. What if the Ningen are neither machine nor modern creation, but something far older? What if these pale watchers have been lurking in the depths since time immemorial, only now revealing themselves as the polar ice recedes? Our penultimate tale takes us back to the realms of Norse mythology, where we encounter a being that, while not a monster in the traditional sense, commanded a power so vast that it struck terror into the hearts of even the bravest Vikings. Behold Aegir, the sea giant. Imagine a being of such immense size and power that the very oceans bent to its will. Aegir was no mere sea monster, but a primal force of nature given form. Depicted as a giant with wild, unkempt hair and beard, both teeming with sea life, Aegir embodied the raw, untamed power of the ocean itself. As a Jotun, or giant, Aegir was neither god nor mortal, but something in between, a primal entity as old as the sea itself. He was said to host great feasts for the gods in his underwater mead hall, served in a massive cauldron that Thor himself had to steal from another giant. But woe betide any mortal sailor who angered Aegir or his wife Ran. For while they could be generous hosts, their wrath was as terrible as the fiercest storm. Aegir could conjure massive waves to swallow entire fleets, while Ran dragged drowning sailors to her watery domain with her magic net. Here's a chilling thought to ponder. What if Aegir still lurks in the depths of our oceans? What if every unexplained shipwreck, every vessel that vanishes without a trace, is not the result of natural disasters or human error, but the work of an ancient sea giant reminding us of his enduring power? For our final tale, we drift into warmer waters, where the sun beats down mercilessly and mirages dance on the horizon. It's here, in the realm of sun-baked delirium and desperate thirst, that we encounter a creature so vast, so deceptive, that it blurs the line between animal and geography. Behold the Aspidochelone. Imagine, if you dare, a turtle of truly titanic proportions. Its shell, weathered by centuries beneath the waves, is not merely covered in algae and barnacles, but in entire ecosystems. Sandy beaches line its edges, lush forests sprout from accumulated sediment, and in some tales, entire villages of unsuspecting humans make their homes upon its back. The Aspidochelone is patience incarnate. It floats nearly motionless for decades, or even centuries, at a time. To passing ships, it appears as a welcome respite, an island oasis in the midst of a merciless sea. Weary sailors eagerly drop anchor, grateful for solid ground beneath their feet. They explore the forests, drink from freshwater streams, and make camp upon the beaches. But their relief is short-lived. For when enough time has passed, or perhaps when enough weight has accumulated on its shell, the Aspidochelone awakens. The island begins to move. Trees topple, streams run dry, and the very ground beneath the sailors' feet begins to tilt and slide. Those fortunate enough to make it back to their ships watch in horror as the island sinks beneath the waves, dragging down anything or anyone still trapped on its surface. Some legends paint the Aspidochelone as a mindless beast, acting on instinct alone. Others attribute to it a malevolent intelligence, claiming it deliberately lures ships to their doom. But perhaps the most chilling interpretation is that the Aspidochelone is simply indifferent, a force of nature so vast and ancient that the lives of humans mean no more to it than those of the barnacles on its shell. Now consider this disquieting thought. In an age of satellite imaging and global positioning systems, we assume we've mapped every island, every landmass on Earth. But the oceans are vast, and our technology is far from infallible. What if, somewhere out there, an uncharted island floats on an ocean current, waiting to welcome unwary travelers? And what if that island isn't an island at all? And so, dear listeners, we've reached the end of our journey through the terrors that lurk beneath the waves. From the tentacled horrors of the north to the living islands of tropical seas, we've explored but a fraction of the monsters that haunt the vast, unexplored reaches of our oceans. As you leave the warmth of our campfire and step out into the night, cast your gaze towards the sea. Listen to the rhythmic crashing of the waves upon the shore. Peaceful, isn't it? Serene, even. But remember this, the ocean keeps its secrets well. In its lightless depths and treacherous currents, who knows what ancient horrors might still swim? What slumbering gods might be stirring? What nameless terrors might even now be rising towards the surface? Sleep well, dear listeners, and perhaps think twice before your next beach vacation. This has been the Phantom Files. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and always question what is lurking in the shadows.